This Redux, I am creating a new project. Redux-1 is the project name I have given it. Now I wanted to open it. The project is creating. Now, basically, what I wanted to do, I wanted to create an application. I wanted to create an application, and I wanted to create a button. I wanted to create a button, a increment or something. Increment. On click of this increment, the number should be incremented and should display it here. It's not a big application. It's simple, we can do it. Normally, what we do, we create a state variable. On click of this, we increment it, it will be changing. But what I wanted to do, I don't want it to follow the same simple old approach. Whenever I click on increment, I want it to store that updated value in store. From store, I want it to display. Here, send it to store, and then here, getting from store. That I wanted to do. See, you see the car from outside, petrol car and electric car looks same, not much difference. But internal mechanism, totally different. Here also the same, right? So what I will do, first of all, I wanted to create the basic setup. First of all, I have to create an object, convert that object into store, then link the reducer, then use dispatch, use selector, all these things I wanted to create. Now what I will do here, first of all, I wanted to install the packages related to Redux. So what I will do, I will install two packages. npm install Redux is a package, and the React Redux is another package. Which we need it? Both we need it. So I'm just installing these two. They have created ready to use methods in those packages, which we can use to convert it to reducers or stores like that. That's what we are doing. Now it is installing. Let it be. Now what I wanted to do. My point is simple. I wanted to create a store. I wanted to create a store, and on click of this, I wanted to increment in store. I wanted to get from store. To create a store, store is nothing but an object, JavaScript object. So what I will do, I will come to index.js. This is where I implement all the Redux logic. So what I will do here in index.js, what I will do, I'll say, first of all, let initial object. I'm creating. This is a normal JavaScript object. This is a normal JavaScript object. And now I wanted to convert this normal JavaScript object to store. See, if you go to a marriage, you go to a marriage. Imagine marriage is by imagine evening 5 o'clock. Marriage is by evening 5 o'clock. You go to the marriage. Imagine by 11 in the morning. I'm giving an example. Now, can you identify who is the bride there? Imagine you don't know who is bride. Can you guess that? Someone has to tell you she is a bride. Okay. By 11 o'clock, she looks like a normal girl. But during the marriage, even 10,000 people comes for the marriage. We can tell easily who is that bride. The way she gets ready and everything. Exactly the same. That girl is same. But she became bride, so we can easily detect it. Here also the same. So what we will do, first we are creating an object. I am creating a key in it called store. I'll say 0. That's it. This is the normal initial object. Got my point? Here. Next, this object is like God. Should not be touched directly. Whatever the activity you wanted to do, you have to perform it through priest or pujari. In our case, pujari is reducer. Now, reducer is nothing but a function. So now I am creating a reducer function. I'll say reducer is equal to I am creating a function. And what this function do? This function should access and modify this. This is like God should not be touched directly other than the priest or reducer. Now for that what we have to do? We have to do something here. You know, priest means has to follow certain rules. What? Should not wear chappal. Should not wear shirt in South India. And has to wear vibhuti. Some rules are there, has to be followed. Here also, reducer means some rules has to be followed. Reducer means some rules has to be followed. What are them? First thing, I'll say current. So I'll write it initially, then I'll explain it. The initial, or I can name it as initial store. A reducer must have two parameters, and a reducer must return that store object. What are the rules? A reducer must have two parameters. One parameter is the current store. You can give any name, right? And for that, I am giving that initial store as the default value. If no value is there, that value will be assigned. And second is action, and this reducer must return that store. I am returning current store. Current store is nothing but initial store. Now we have created the object. We have created the reducer. Now we have to create a store. You have to convert that object to store. You have to convert that object to store. You know, it's like this. You know, films. Hero looks like some gunda, but suddenly some background music comes, some camera angle changes, he comes in police uniform. Then villains will be surprised. Oh my God, this guy is police. You know all my secrets. It's like that. That villain will change his dress, so he become a police. Then all people recognize. Here also the same thing. Now object is an object. You have to convert that into store. You have to convert that into store. Right? Now what I will do to convert it into a store, there is a method called create store. There is a method called create store. That is part of the Redux package. So what I will do here, I'll say info create store, or able to see create store from Redux. I'm saying create store from Redux. Create store is a method. Now what I will do here, I will say let store is equal to create store, and in this create store I am passing this reducer. I'm passing this reducer. Now what actually is happening? We are calling the reducer function internally. Whenever we call the reducer function, it is returning the store, it is returning the object, right? That object is converted into store. The object is converted into store. Now this is our actual store. What we have done, we have created a normal simple object. Then we have created a normal simple function with the two parameters. Reducer must have two parameters. One parameter is referring to the store object, and the other is returning the normal action. And there is that we have to return that store object. Okay. Now observe here carefully. I am calling this reducer. I am calling this reducer function. I am not passing any parameters. Because I am not passing any parameter, what actually happens? This initial store will be assigned to this current store. And we are returning that current store. That returns will be coming here. And whatever the function that is returning will be passed it into create store, and that will be created into store. Just working this. So create store is a method where you give the object to it, that returns store which we are storing into this. Sorry, you can ignore it. There is another approach that is more complicated approach, but still you can use this. Got my point? So we have created the object. To access that object, we have created the reducer, and we are calling the reducer which is returning the object. We are passing it to store and creating the store object. Now our store is ready. Now that store should be accessible by everywhere within the application. That store should be accessible by everywhere within the application. Yes or no? So how do we do that? To do that, create stories from Redux, we have one more thing called provider. What? Provider info. Provider from React Redux. Provider is part of React Redux. Now we have imported the provider, and what I will do here, before this app, I will wrap this app with the provider. I am wrapping the app with the provider, and for this provider there is a prop called store. Store object. Now that store object is accessible anywhere within the app. So first step, creating the normal simple object. Second step, creating the normal simple reducer function which accepts two parameters and which returns the store object. Then third step, use the reducer to create the store. And the fourth step, makes accessible of that store throughout the app. Just because of this reason, they are writing it in next.js. Now, this store is accessible everywhere within this app. Got a point? Now, whenever I want to send it to store, I will use dispatch. Use dispatch passes to reducer. Use dispatch passes to reducer. Use selector getting from reducer. Now let us try it. Now what I will do? Now for our better understanding inside this reducer, I am creating function. I am writing inside reducer. Inside reducer, I am calling it. Now see what happens. Now I'll come to app.js. I'll delete all that unwanted stuff. And here I'll create a button. This I am creating a button and I'm writing on click. Click. Now what I wanted to do, I wanted to dispatch something so it can be stored in store. So I have to use dispatch. Use dispatch is a hook. If I wanted to use dispatch hook, I must import it. So what I will do, I'll say, oh, use dispatch from React Redux. Because use dispatch is a hook. Hook is a concept of React only. That's why use dispatch we have used it. Then I have to create like this. Let dispatch equal to use dispatch. Like the way we write use state, right? Like we are writing use dispatch. Use navigate also we have written the same. Then here say dispatch. Now I can dispatch objects. I can dispatch simple plain objects. What I will do, I'll simply say I'm saying key, not type. Anything you can pass. And same type, I'll say increment. And I'll say value. I'm passing type and the value. Now this is the object. They're passing it to store or reducer. Reducer. Nothing is directly offered to the store. Dispatch to reducer. Now reducer has to add it to store because no one else has direct access to store. Let us see what happens. Now I am running the application. Now let us see. Now inside reducer it is already called. Initially it will call once because we are creating the store. Then we have called reducer. Right? It's calling then observe here and clicking on increment. Are able to see inside reducer. So we are sending an object through use dispatch. It is passing it to reducer. It's passing it to reducer. Now in reducer, I'm coming here. Whatever we are passing through dispatch will be coming as a second parameter. We are sending an object, right? That object is this second parameter. Now what I will do is say console log and type action. Now whatever we are dispatching the object, that we will be able to see it. Increment score are able to see type and value both are set. Type and value both are set. So dispatch has to dispatch only object, and the dispatch is dispatching to store or reducer. Reducer. Why store is not directly touched? And in reducer, we have to do the changes which is applicable. Now what I will do, now I am creating one more button. I am creating one more button. What I say, button increment. Here on click. What I wanted to do, on decrement button, I say dispatch. Now also I wanted to pass an object. Dispatching you have to pass through an object only. Simple plain object. Specify type, decrement, say value. That object can be any keys, any values, it's okay. I'm just giving only details. Now if I click on this, increment also calling reducer, decrement also calling reducer. Increment means I wanted to keep on increase the score. Decrement means I wanted to keep on decrease the score. Increment means I have to increment by 1. Decrement means I have to decrement by 1. So now what I will do, once whether increment or decrement is coming to reducer, now what I will do, I will implement logic like this. If action dot type is increment, I have to build logic to increment it. Else, if action dot type equal to decrement, I have to build logic to decrement it. Understanding what I am saying? Complicated. Because my application may have so many dispatches, 100 dispatches, 200 dispatches, 300 dispatches. If I have so many dispatches from so many components, everything comes to reducer only. Which is that we have to identify it. That's why we are specifying type. That is for incrementing the score. This is for decrementing the score. 1 is for 4, 1 is for 6. Like that we can set. Understanding? Because everything is coming to reducer only. We have to differentiate it. And once we come here, once we receive this is increment. Now, one more rule you have to understand in reducer. Reducer has to return store. It must be a new object. Return, this reducer must return the store. That must be a new copy of the store. Must be a new copy of the store. That means what I'll say, increment, I'm saying return. I'm creating flower brackets like this. I'll say star 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 current store. That means what? We are creating a spread operator. That means we are creating a new copy of the store. Getting a new copy of the store. After that, once the copy is created for score, we will say score plus 1. 1 means says score plus action dot value, which is 1. So reducer for certain rules has to be followed. What is that? Reducer must accept 2 parameters. First is the store parameter. Second is the action. Whenever you dispatch, that comes. Second parameter. And every time reducer calls, it must return an object, return a store. That too, a new store has to be written. That's why we are creating a new store. After creating a new store, for that new copy, we are adding that value and we are returning it. We are returning it. So we are returning that store object basically. Now our store object is up to date with the 1, 2, 3 like that. Let us see. Now what I wanted to do from our application, I wanted to retrieve from store, receive from store. For that we have to use selector. So in our application in app.js, along with the use dispatch, I'll also use now use selector gives us the store object. How I'll say let the store object is equal to use selector, and here we have to pass the callback function. In the callback function, that store object will come as a parameter, and we are returning that store object. We are storing into this. In that store object, see, in the Node.js, request and response will automatically get it as a parameter right in callback function. The same way here, the store object will be getting it as a parameter automatically. That store object, I am returning it, which will be stored into this. Now, what I will do here, I will create a h1. Inside this h1, I'll say your object dot score. Let us see whether it works or not. Now I'm coming here. Store is not index.js. Index.js. So current object dot current store dot store. Now I'm incrementing it. You are able to see. You may see it is so much simple. What is there in it? But internal mechanism is different. If I click on this, I am dispatching it and received by the reducer. Reducer receiving that object and creating a new copy of the store. For that new copy, it is adding that value and returning it. Then using use selector, we are receiving it and we are increment score. This is now if I click on decrement store, nothing is happening. But we have to implement the logic first. Now if I click on decrement score, if I click on decrement score, what is actually happening? We are dispatching a decrement and passing one. Now it is coming to reducer. It's coming to reducer. In decrement, we haven't written anything. Now what I wanted to do here, first rule is return, create a new copy of it. Correct? So creating a new copy, it's a new rule. It's a rule. Whenever reducer returns an object, returns a store, it must be a new copy. So creating a new copy. Then I'll say score current dot current store dot score minus action dot value. Value is the one which you are passing. How much reduce we are passing. Okay. Now see here. I'm increasing score. I am increasing score. I can show you a complicated example, but I want you to understand this. That's very simple. Understanding what I'm saying. So first we created the normal simple plain object. See, it's like this here. You have created Pongal. That is called as Pongal. But if you put that Pongal in front of God for 1 hour, that is called as Prasad. It's still Pongal only, but we refer it as Prasad. Certain procedure is there to convert Pongal to Prasad. Exactly. We have an object. That object we have to convert that into store. Certain procedure is there. What is that procedure? We create the object, create the reducer. The reducer must return that object which is stored. Then call that in create store. Store object will be created. Then make that store object accessible everywhere within the app using provider. Then use dispatch, send it to reducer, use selector, getting from reducer. Whenever you send it to reducer, we wanted to add something to the store. How do you do that? You have to create a new copy of the store and add that to new copy. Any changes you wanted to do must be done to a new copy. Must be done to a new copy. That's why using the spread operator, we are creating a copy of that store object. Then we are adding. Understanding what I'm saying? Now I wanted to create one more button called 4, called 6. Can be done. Now what I will do, I'll create the 2 more buttons. Button 4, button 6. Now what I will do, on click of 4, the score has to increment by 4. So what I am doing, I am saying on click, I am creating a callback arrow function here. Then I say dispatch, say type 4. Now how much has to be increased? And dispatching it here. On click, dispatch, dispatch, type 6. How much has to be increased? Values. Now I am writing 2 more dispatches, but we are not handling the dispatches here. So now what I will do, I will say else. I am writing else if you want, you can write switch case. Actually speaking, switch case is recommended. That is much faster. Action dot type is 4. Then what I am doing, whenever I click on dispatch, it comes to this, and this condition will be satisfied, and we are returning a new copy of store. And for what I am doing, current store dot score plus action dot value, which is 4. How much to be incremented also we are passing from there. Now observe here, I am clicking on 4, decrement. If I click on 6, nothing is happening. Why? We haven't handled in reducer. We are dispatching it. Reducer is calling it. Reducer, there is nothing written for 6. So what I will do, I'll write one more else if. I am showing you the simplified version of Redux, so you can understand it. But actually, you see any Redux examples, you have to lose 4 or 5 hair follicles. Yeah, what is this? What they are doing? I am showing you the simplest way to understand it. You can work with this also, but as you gain expertise, you can write it in a much better. Write it in a much better way means what? Instead of writing it in index.js, you can create a separate fold file called reducer and write that reducer there and import it here and use it. Got a point? Like that, you can do it separate. So here, what I'll do, I'll say dot dot if action dot type equal to 6. I'll say return dot 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 current store, comma store current store dot store plus will this work for 6 or not? Why? Yes, 4 is working, increment is working, increment is working. 6 is not. It is going to reducer, but condition is not satisfying there because I have given 6 in capitals. I will give 6. Now it should work or not. Understood? See, whenever I make a call to Sai Prakash, for example, it will not go to him directly. It will go to the tower. From tower, it will go to him. Even if he makes a call to me also, it will be like that. It will from his to, even though we are 4 5 feet difference, but still passes through tower only. Here also the same thing. Everything looks in the same thing, but we are passing it through reducer. So now it doesn't matter to us where the component is. Any level the component is, use dispatch. Any level the component is, use select. Any level the component is, use dispatch, and any level the component is, use select. Now, just to give you an example, I am creating a component here. I am creating a component called a dot js. A dot js is a component I am creating, and simply say RFC a is created. Now, likewise, I wanted to create one more component b dot js. RFC b is created. I am creating one more component b dot js. RFC b has been created, and I am creating d dot js. RFC b has been created. 4 components I have created A, B, C, D. Now I wanted to use this D in C, C in B, B in A, like that I wanted to do it. So what I will do, I am coming to C component. I am coming to C component. In the C component, I am using C component. I am using D. C component I am using D component, and in B component I am using C component. In the B component I am using C component. In A component I am using B component. Now A component I want to use it in app. But if I open it, you don't find anything. Now actually it is there. Now see D is there. This D is a part of C, which is part of B, which is part of A, which is part of app.js. So many levels are there. Now from D I wanted to dispatch. From D I wanted to dispatch. Now what I will do inside the D component, what I will do, I'll create a button. I will say button means double. Now I'll say on click. On click. What I will do, I want it to send it to store. Send it to store, I have to use dispatch. To dispatch, I have to import. So I'm importing the dispatch. Import, use dispatch from React Redux. Then let dispatch use dispatch. Then on click of it, what I will do, I will say dispatch say find double and the value. I'm just passing numbers only. It can be anything. Can be anything. Now I'm passing to and I'm dispatching it. It comes to reducer. In reducer, I'm writing else if action dot type equal to double. Then I'll say return. I have to make sure create a new copy of store. Then modify that in new copy. Store dot store action dot. Now what I'll do, I'll come here and this is from D component. That now that D component is at low level. D is inside C. C is inside B. B is inside A. A is inside app.js. That means I am passing from lower to up. Understanding? Now, if I have a few more components, for example, J is component is there, K is there, L is there, M is there, N is there. Here I wanted to receive it. How do I do that? You select that, that's it. Wherever I wanted to send, use dispatch. Wherever I wanted to receive, use select. It doesn't matter any level. Now, what I will do, I am creating one more component. I'll say J dot is RFC. I'm just focusing on the structure only, not separate. J I have created. Then K dot JS RFC, right? JK L dot JS RFC L dot JS RFC L. Now this is N. Now I want this N to be part of M. So I am coming to M. I will say N. So N is part of M. And M is part of L. K. And K is part of having L. I'm creating component inside component like that. Now this J, I am adding it in the after this. This J, I am adding it in the app.js actually. Now this N is part of so many levels. Now here what I will do, inside N, whenever I dispatch at that value, I wanted to receive it here. So what I will do, I'll say N, right? Inside this, here I'll say one more H1. Here, first of all, I wanted to receive it here. Receive means I have to use selector from React Redux. Then let the store object is equal to use selector. That store object will get it as a parameter. I am giving some name to it, and I am returning that, storing into this. Any name I can give it to you. Once I get it, I'll say store object dot. Now observe here. Store object. Now see, I click on this, are able to see it. This is part of so many level of component. This is part of so many level. I am passing it, yes or no? Understanding what I am saying? I am showing you with numbers. It can be strings, anything. Now, in this component, I can create an input. I can type something, and I can send it to store. And here I can receive it from store. Understand it? Dheeraj, complicated. No, I am not focusing on UI here, but this double is so many levels. J, K, L, M, N, like that. I haven't created so many levels of UI. UI is not focusing. I'm not focusing. I am not happy with your expression. Now tell me, what is the issue? What you didn't understand? Sai Prakash. Don't understand the సిగ్గుపడుతున్నావు ఏంటి? Okay. If you have any, you can tell me. Overall, understand the concept. Anywhere we can dispatch, anywhere we can receive. It doesn't matter where the components. If you follow through props, it really matters where the components. Now I don't want, because I don't want it to follow so many levels through props. I mean, see, I'm giving an example. I wanted to convey something to Rahul. Okay. Now, imagine it's a very big office. In that big office, he may be part of 4th floor or 5th floor. The normal detection approach in office is, now, first of all, I have to get that extension of Rahul. Then I have to make a call to that extension. Now, Rahul is in 4th floor, 5th seat. Now 4, 5 is the extension of Rahul. Like that, I have to make a call. If Rahul is not there, again I have to wait until he comes. Why this headache? I'll directly make a mobile call. Now Rahul is in office or not in office, 4th floor, 1st floor, even he is in bathroom also, that call will get. Simplified. Understanding what I am saying? Exactly. If you use props, it is important where that component is. And you have to pass from parent to child and child to parent. Too complicated process. Here, if you wanted to send, use dispatch. You wanted to receive, use select. Use selector gets the full object, you take what you want. Take what you want. you feel this is too difficult or difficult, you are on the right track. If you feel this is so easy, something is wrong. Because little masala is there. And what I am showing you is the simplified. I have worked a lot to simplify this to this stage. Otherwise, this Redux, I'll be covering, but you cannot understand. Now, someone asks you, have they covered Redux? Yes. Do you understand? It will be like that. So, the purpose of Redux is passing data from any component to any component is easier, simplifying. How whoever wants to send it to store, whoever wanted to receive from store. Send it, use dispatch, receive it, use select. But whether if you are sending it to reducer. What is the reducer rule? Minimum 2 parameters should be there, and it must return a new object. You store object. That is the rule. That is the rule. If you go to temple, certain rules you have to follow. You have to bath and go. Should not wear chappals. Particularly, there are some temples in Tamil Nadu. I think you have to, if boys has to remove the shirt and go. Certain rules has to be followed according to the temple. Here also, if you wanted to use Redux, Redux has created certain rules which we have to follow. What are those rules? If you wanted to send it, use dispatch. If you wanted to receive it, use dispatch. Select. And the store object should be created. A normal plain object should be created. Then for that to modify it, access that create that reducer. Then using the reducer, create the store. Then make access to store. Anywhere if you observe here, this store is not touched directly. Initial store, anywhere it is not touched directly. Anywhere, any dispatches. Understand? Now, this is fine now, but there are some problems will come with this approach. What is that? If I have so many dispatches, 500 dispatches, for example, my reducer function becomes too big. Reducer function becomes too big with so many if else. So we can split the reducers, and we can still use it by using combined reducer. There is one more is there called combined reducer. I just say combined reducer. Imagine I have an application. Leaves is a separate module. Users is a separate module. Attendance is a separate module. Tasks is a separate module. So many modules are there. Each module has something to send it to store, something to get from store. So for each module, so many dispatches are there, so many selectors are there. So many dispatches means the reducer becomes more. So what I can do, I can create a reducer specific to tasks, specific to leaves, specific to users. And I can combine those reducers using combined reducer. That we'll be discussing in our next session. This is part 2 of reducer. So Redux. In our next session, we'll be working on the combined reducers. There are 2 concepts left in Redux. One is combined reducers. Then there is a Redux thunk. There is one more is there, that is called as middleware. Redux middleware. We have so many middlewares here. 3-tier architecture middleware is there. Express middleware is there. Redux middleware is there. We'll be discussing about combined reducers and Redux middleware, which is thunk in our next session. Again, I am telling you, this is not something you can just get ready in one submission. One task you cannot get it. This creation of store, reducer, creation, converting to store and provider, it is actually 5-minute activity. You have to remember, okay, first I have to create that object, then I have to create the reducer. The reducer should have two parameters. Must return the store. That that certain steps you have to remember it. That takes time. After creating 4 or 5 tasks with Redux, just like that you can do it. You feel this is much easier than anything else. Anywhere it's use dispatch and you use the selector. Any component at any level. Now I'll give you an example. You take any shopping cart example, any e-commerce application. You will be keep on selecting the items plus add like that. Suddenly that score, that payment amount will be keep on changing. How? Both are different components actually. They are dispatching it here, they are changing it there. See, it's like this. Imagine this is the application. This is the header of the application. Here, cart something will be showing like this. Cart will be there, and here that the items are showing. The items are showing with the either incremented or decremented. Like that. Every application you see, add product or remove product will be there. Add or now this itself is a separate component. This header is a separate component. If you click on plus plus plus, the cart value will be keep on changing. Click on minus minus minus, the cart value will keep on changing. How are they doing it? Whenever it is a plus or minus, they are keep on dispatching it. They keep on dispatching it, and they are changing the amount. If you reduce it, they are sending the value minus 50 or minus 100, something like that. If you add it, they are sending minus plus 350 or plus 500, like that, depending upon the price of the. You just see any application in cart, if you click on selecting the items, that will be changed. It's altogether separate component, this is altogether separate component. They are using simple use dispatch there, they use selector. Understanding what I'm saying? Complicated? Actually speaking, Redux is actually called as a WAP of use state. WAP of use state. Use state, whenever you change the value of it, it reflects the whole component will be repopulated. But that is within that level only. But here you are dispatching in some other component, you are receiving some another component. Still it is updated. That's why it is WAP of use state. Actually, there is a use state is there. Use state actually whenever you change the variable, the whole component should be updated. If you have so many use states, you can use something called use reducer. What? Use reducer. Use reducer is if you have so many state objects, you can use this use reducer. Okay. And there is one more is there called use context. The purpose of this context is to pass values between components in the same hierarchy. Now A to B, B to C, C to D is there. Now you wanted to pass to A to D or D to A, you can just use context. Redux is the combination of this and this. That's it. They have mixed use reducer and use context. They call it as Redux. Understanding? We have used provider. Remember, we have used a provider. This is the concept of use context. We have used reducer, right? This is the concept of use reducer. Now we have mixed both things. Mixed both in the Redux. You just search for use reducer. You will find it like our reducer. You just search for use context. You will find like But a use context is between the same hierarchy only. That means what? It's like this: A, B, C, D. You wanted to send something to this. Through props you can send. Through use context also you can send. But if I have J, K, L, M, M. If you wanted to send between this to this, again you have to use context. But Redux, anything to anything. Now I can send from this to this also using reducer. I can. Here selector, here dispatch, here selector. Got your point? So there is no point of covering use Redux and use context. Earlier, I was covering use context, then use Redux, use reducer, then mixing both and create a Redux. That's what I was covering. And people used to go mad. This is too complicated. Then it is not that complicated. Without using use reducer and use context, also you can learn use Redux. So I have stopped covering that use reducer and use context. Redux became easier at least. You are using that. You are internally using reducer, internally using context. Provider is what? Context only. Redux reducer function is what? Use reducer. But again, I am telling you here for your simplified, I am writing if else if, but the switch case is faster execution. Okay, clear? I want you to try this. I want you to try this. Okay. If you don't understand, still don't worry. Yeah, this is second session only. Anyway, you'll be getting the recording. Just go through it multiple times. Still have any questions? I am covering Redux now. You need a little bit of practice, at least 4 or 5 times to implement this Redux. You will be understand. So now what you can do, it is like this. Let me give you the task to try it. I want this as a component. Rohit Sharma is famous for success. He scores more success rate. So you just display the Rohit Sharma picture. And, just 6. This is a separate component. You create one more component. Here you display Virat Kohli picture. Imagine he is good at sports. You take a Rahul Dravid picture. Is good at singles. Now you create one more component. All are separate components. One more component. Probably this guy is Bumrah. This guy is good at getting wickets. Okay, and you create one more component where you display score. So if you click on 4, 6, 6, 4, single and a wicket. If I click on keep on pressing wickets, wicket should be increasing here. 1, 2, 3 like that. If I click on 4, 6, score should be increasing by 6. If I click on 4, score should be increasing by like that. Can be done. So these 4 we are using for dispatching. This we are using for receiving selector. Got my point? Later, if I move these components in so many levels, also still it works. Got my point? Just try something like that. Remember, in every interview, they'll ask about the Redux. In every interview, I think there will be no interview without it. Okay, that is very important. Why they ask in every interview? Because we use that a lot. We use that a lot. We use that. Why we use that a lot? Because according to React, it's component approach. We will be creating so many components. If number of components are more, passing data between components becomes difficult. So that's why we use it. That's right. If you wanted to become a software engineer, having a good knowledge of English is very important. Yes or no? Why English? They can ask you Korean. No? Why they are asking Korean knowledge or Spanish knowledge? Why they are asking in English? Because most of the times we communicate with client in English only. And our batchmates belongs to different states. You may ask, can we use Hindi? How many people knows Hindi really? No, we can do. Hindi is something, at least in my case, Hindi I can read, I can write, but I can't understand. During my school days, I can read Hindi, I can write Hindi, but I can't understand Hindi. They give little books here, that only we do it. I have started understanding Hindi when I was started working in Delhi. When I have started working in Delhi, then only I have understood why HCL was a very big company, no doubt about it. But unfortunately, we will go for a meeting and they will say, Arya, we will start discussing